the MG3, cheap Chinese rubbish, or actually a decent steer? Let's find out. Stop-start technology.
About people who have trouble singing after that.
Go away!
It's got better than ever yet.
This stupid car keeps turning its stereo on randomly. But anyway, I've just demonstrated the stop-start. That's the engine not running. As soon as I put the clutch down, there we go. What I've actually noticed with this car during over 800 miles of driving is that the engine's so quiet at tick over, you don't notice it stopped running. It's only when you start getting warning lights on the dashboard because it's not charging and there's no oil pressure, we start thinking, what's going on here? So firstly, I need to point out that yes, I do have a problem with my THs. It's a speech impediment I've always had. So testing the MG3 Freestyle Sport really isn't ideal. So as mentioned, the engine's a 1.5 litre producing 105 horsepower. And it's an engine that seems to have a fairly decent spread of torque about it. So it doesn't really wake up till 2000 revs, and it zings a bit more from 4,500, but it pulls fairly nicely most of the time, which is good because it makes it quite a relaxing car to drive, as does the marvellous ride. Having driven quite a few of its rivals, I've been left wondering whether any small car has suspension at all these days. And while it can't absorb the worst that British roads have to offer, it really does feel like someone's put an awful lot of effort into making it ride and handle well. And they have. Right, I'm going to accelerate now. Let's really open her up. Really an engine you want to extend. It doesn't sound particularly nice. It will do 0 to 60 in 10.5 seconds, and that really quite good time is helped by the fact it'll do 60 miles an hour in second gear. It seems remarkably tall in terms of gearing, which means it's very relaxed. When you're doing 60 on back roads, you're under 3,000 revs. At 70 on the motorway, you're just over. It's very peaceful. Fair bit of road noise perhaps, and you can actually hear the braking system at times. I don't know if that's because everything else is damped down so well, but it's the only thing you're left able to hear. I mean, it really does handle very well. You can chuck it around a lot and it won't go anywhere. But like I say, a British engineering team behind this car, so they've tuned it for British roads. The steering is very nicely weighted and nicely geared as well, so you don't have to twirl it too much. It's got a decent heft to it. It's actually a hydraulic power assisted steering system, which is a bit unusual these days. Electric is favoured for being cheap and efficient, and it gives you a wonderfully numb feeling, whereas by comparison this feels pretty good. You can tell what's going on, you can feel the front end. So the only real problems I've had during those 800 miles of driving are the single reverse light, which is appalling. You just can't see anything at night. And actually the size of the car as well. I think it's a small car, but modern cars aren't really small anymore. It's 4 meters long and over 1.7 meters wide. It's actually larger in terms of footprint than my Honda SMX, which helps explain why it's so spacious in the back, because it's not actually a tiny car. The controls are nice and light. It's got a particularly pleasant gear change, and the clutch is a nice weight as well. I've found myself stalling it a few times, but that could well just be because I'm not used to modern engines. The brakes are quite powerful and have something called brake wiping. I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm guessing it probably applies the brakes for you at times. It's got hill hold as well, which you shouldn't need because you should have excellent clutch control and be using the handbrake. And I'm pleased to report it's a good old conventional handbrake, even if it does beep at you if you put it on while you're driving along. Spoil sports. I'm going to have to do it again. I need to wash the rear window. The rear washer is a bit too powerful and tends to give the spoiler a wash as well. The front wipers are excellent. I really cannot fault either their wiping pattern or the behaviour of the washers. That makes me happy. Not a bad turning circle either. So the only thing that makes it feel cheap is the door handles. They're quite nasty, flimsy little things, and they've got a scratch plate behind them, which on this car, which has done 6,000 miles, are already looking quite tatty. It seems a bit bizarre because there's nothing else that really gives the game away. You don't drive around going, oh, this feels cheap. Yeah, this isn't like the FSOs and Skodas and Ladas of old. It actually feels like it's been screwed together very well. There are some concerns about reliability. I've heard of timing chain issues, and also depreciation is a bit unknown as well. Right, let's do a full-blown 0 to 60 test with the sun. Oh, there we go, there's a stop-start kicking in again. Let's wait for the road to clear. It's almost like being in an electric car when all you can hear is the fan. Right, are we ready, clocks? And as the valves come through the bonnet, that's 60 miles an hour. So this is the Freeform Sport model, which is kind of the middle of the pack. There's a range of 4. The Sport only seems to get you some side trims on the sills. It doesn't get you better suspension, it doesn't get you more zing from the engine. So I have to say that this particular model just isn't worth paying extra for. The Freeform packs a fair bit of kit into it, and you still get the steering wheel with the red stitching, memories of the old MG red seat belts. So I reckon that's probably the one to go for. The cheapest is the Free Time, which is £8,300 on the road. But to be honest, if you can spend £1 more and get quite a lot more toys thrown in, I would. This particular test car is £10,200, which includes £365, I think, for the two-tone paint. And it has to be said, I do like the colour. There are all sorts of nasty naff graphic packs you can specify as well. My advice would be to not do that. Yes, it does have an engine, and it's not related to any previous Rover engine. It is an entirely new design, 1.5 litres, 105 brake horsepower, and has less problems controlling its hair than I do. Inside, it's all very comfortable. It's a nice supportive seat, no lumbar adjustment, but you can adjust for height. Steering wheel falls nicely to hand, and all the controls are kind of exactly where you'd want them to be. Having covered over 800 miles in this car now, I have to say that it's actually really quite comfortable. What's it like in the back? Good news in the back too. Lots of leg room, my feet go under the seats very nicely, and the only slight issue is the head restraint. And this is the problem with the head restraint. It actually, I find it sticks into the top of my back. It's not very comfortable, and I think it would protect me in an accident, but I don't really like them very much. And that's their normal position, and that's as high as they go. It's just not really good enough. It would compromise my comfort on a long trip. Let's take in some of the interior features. Got a stereo which randomly turns on. I haven't worked out why. I mean, I always turn it off before I turn the engine off, but sometimes it'll just turn itself on when you turn the engine on. I find this slightly infuriating and sometimes quite scary. Below that, we've got the heating and ventilation. On all but the base model, you get air conditioning. It's not full climate control. I don't like the fact the buttons are a bit small when you're trying to find them as you're driving along. Not ideal, really. This one does where you want the fans to blow, and this one is your temperature. And interestingly, that top setting is proper volcano heat. It is really, really warm. But the next one down really is very lukewarm. I would like a setting in between the two. There doesn't seem to be one. So air conditioning is available. That'll give you your full force demisting. You've also got the lock and unlock buttons for the doors here. I'm not really sure why that is. It obviously locks itself all the time, which I find slightly infuriating, but that's modern cars for you. It's not really the car's fault. On the steering wheel, you'll find controls for the stereo. You get cruise control on the top freestyle model. This car doesn't have that. And let's have a look at the dash. So you can see, done over 6,000 miles. Let's turn the heater off. If I press the end of the indicator stalk, we can see I've done 824 miles since picking this car up. It's 7 degrees out at the moment. I reckon it's got 57 miles. Obviously there's only one dash of fuel left in it because it's a press car. That was a live MPG report. Nothing to report at the moment. And there is the biggest problem with this car. 41.9 MPG. And my calculations reckon that's pretty close to spot on, which is pretty poor for a car of this size. I mean, sure, the 1.5 litre engine doesn't help, but I would hoping for 50 quite easily. How big is the boot? The boot's not enormous, to be honest, but you can just about fit a fully grown adult in the back. Seat split 60-40. Just the back seats go down, and then you can remove the parcel shelf as well. Job's a good one. I'm going to get out now. This sill is perhaps a bit on the high side. Ooh, what lurks under here? Oh gosh, it's actually got a full-size spare wheel. Now that is a major plus point. No stupid can of foam here. So there we have it then, the MG3. Actually a very decent little car, albeit one that perhaps has some question marks around reliability and long-term depreciation. However, if you're after a brand new cheap little car, then this one doesn't necessarily feel as cheap as you might expect. Thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ta! Things I do